At the moment, it is very, very hot in that middle part of Myanmar, so it's considered the dry zone. We've had temperatures in excess of 40 degrees Celsius, and we know these temperatures will continue to rise for the next few weeks. We've also had unseasonal rain, and last Tuesday I was between Mandalay and Sagaing, and it started pouring down with rain, and the streets were instantly flooded, and this automatically increases the terrible conditions for families that are living in tents and in unstable camps.
Yeah, it seems unfair, doesn't it? You've gone from really hot temperatures to this unseasonal rain, but the monsoon season is coming your way as well, and as well as the aftershocks that I mentioned there in the introduction. What part are they playing to challenge the efforts that you're doing there?
Well, for our teams who've been feeling these aftershocks since day one, it's created a lot of instability. For our teams, of course, who are the first responders, for the local responders, and of course for the populations themselves who have now this increased trauma from weeks and weeks of aftershocks. These aftershocks and heavy rains also mean that buildings are incredibly unstable. And in the past few days, after these aftershocks and heavy rains, I have seen buildings crumble that were previously still standing. So there is an increased risk for the populations and for the responders.
Yeah, speaking of infrastructure, not just some of those buildings, but we know that some of the roads were buckled, bridges collapsed as well. How is your work then now being complicated by those issues?
That's right. Some bridges were destroyed, roads were damaged, railways were damaged. Insofar as we're seeing at the moment, we have hubs in Mandalay, and between Mandalay and Sagaing, it's quite straightforward to get there. So we are able to use those transport routes and keep those supply chains open, including from Yangon and the capital, Naypyidaw. So far, we've been able to manage those fine, although, of course, in the initial days immediately after the earthquake, the ground situation was extremely challenging.
If I can ask you about shelter now, we know that so many people lost their homes during the actual earthquake, and it sounds like since then as well with aftershocks and the weather. How many are still without shelter, and where are they living?
So we estimate that dozens of thousands of people are still without shelter. They're spread out in hundreds of camps, some of which are extremely informal, and I have visited some of these camps. Some of them are in monasteries, mosques, and churches. Some people are living in open spaces, in football grounds or fields that have been loaned by private owners for those purposes. Now, we've seen this incredible outpouring of solidarity from local communities, from private donors, and from local organizations who've all rushed in to help. We've seen some of them set up these entire camps by themselves. But of course, ensuring water supply, access to sanitation, and some degree of dignity, especially for women and children, is still quite challenging.
And so just finally, Nadia, obviously your organisation, the International Federation of Red Cross and Red Crescent Societies, are trying to deliver shelter, food, safe water drinking, hygiene kits, etc. that you just spoke of there. But what more help do you need to do your work? What would you like from the international community?
Well, the Myanmar people are extremely resilient. They faced, years and years of shocks. This country is exposed to extreme heat, as we know, to cyclones, to flooding, and somehow the Myanmar people always manage to find a way to recover. At the moment, there's a lot of local and regional support. We also need additional international support. So the response has been very generous to date, but we would hope for more. And it's important for us to see how we can support, with the Myanmar Red Cross, support these families to move out of these emergency shelters into more transitional shelters and swiftly move to recover their livelihoods through a variety of assistance that will, we hope, include cash assistance. That way people can decide themselves how they would like to recover their lives and their livelihoods. We've also worked very closely with the Australian Red Cross. They have been really key in our continued work with the Myanmar Red Cross in terms of strengthening the youth and volunteers of the Myanmar Red Cross, the work on disaster preparedness and response. And this is exactly why we see that it's so important to work with local actors on the ground.
Head of Delegation in Myanmar for the IFRC, Nadia Khoury, thank you.
Thanks to you.